Hey guys, this is Chris from the Blazing Show with Chris. I got a guest on today. You from the Standoff? You know that guy, Cliven Bundy. Good old Cliven. All right, hello, Mr. Bundy.
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, Mr. Bundy. It's an honor to meet you, sir.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on your show today.
Welcome, and ladies and gentlemen, this is Cliven Bundy from the Bundy Standoff. Wow, I can't believe I'm talking to you, man. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. It's a pleasure to be on your show. And hey, I want to say hello to America. I haven't talked to you for a while. Thank
Yeah,
you for having me on.
no problem. Can you tell us a little about yourself, Mister?
Well, I'm Cliven D. Bundy. I live in southern Nevada, about 80 miles northeast of Las Vegas, Nevada. Live along the Virgin River, Bunkerville Mountain, east of Lake Mead, uh, which is almost the biggest lake in the world.
Wow.
I run cattle on the desert range here. I'm a rancher, so I'm a cowboy, a rancher,
Wow.
a family man.
Yep.
This is my life.
Well, talk about the history you have with the farm, because like an issue is like, have you been there like since the 1800s? Because that was an issue whether some kind of document you're actually allowed to be there. How come yeah, I'm coming. What can you explain that? Because like in case people know.
Yeah, they're probably talking about the preemptive rights that have been created here on this ranch. My ancestors, my great great grandfather came here in 1877, actually January the 7th, 1877,
Whoa.
and began to settle this land and ranch and use the renewable resources on this desert land, which was the stock water and the feed, the forage. So my foundation started in 1877.
Wow, amazing. Can you talk about the what happened in the standoff? Like, go in detail what happened in the standoff for anybody, in case anybody doesn't know, because I don't know if the media covered it much. I know that I know it for sure happened, and of course Alex Jones knows as well. Can you talk about the standoff, how it went?
Yes, I can. Let me give you a little bit more history. So from
I apologize.
1877 until the present day, I my family's been ranching. Our other ranchers that established the preemptive rights, which is property rights, they either I have bought them or I've inherited all these rights,
Wow,
and so up to this point, I've had these rights. I've used them. I've made beneficial use. And what I do here is I graze this land off and use the water and the feed, and I make red meat out of my cattle. And the red meat is edible commodity for American people, which is their
nice.
hamburger and steaks, and that's good food. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Now the standoff is more of a political thing, where you have the United States government claiming ownership of this land. And
No.
then you have the state of Nevada claiming ownership of this land because we are a admitted state into the United States, but we have sovereignty here. So the land belongs to the people of Nevada. Nevada is divided up into 17 counties. And so the county I live in is Clark County. So the people in Clark County actually owns this land that I graze on. I only own certain rights. I own the rights to graze, use the forage. I own the water rights to use the water for livestock water, and I own access rights to be able to travel around on the ranch. And I own range improvements such as trails and fences, my water troughs and tanks. And I also own one other right. I claim another right, and that's the right of me as being we the people having the right to come out here, enjoy this land, picnic, camp, hunt, fish, have a sightsee. I claim those rights on this land. So the the real argument at the standoff is basically who owns this land, who has policing power. The federal government says we own the land and we have policing power. Cliven Bundy says, I have these certain rights and I believe in state sovereignty. I believe the state of Nevada owns this land. I abide by all of the state of Nevada laws, in other words, the water laws, the grazing laws, the road laws, and I don't recognize the federal government as having any jurisdiction or authority.
Wow. Wow, they have some nerve trying to get you out of your land, which you've had since the 1800s. Wow.
Yeah,
So,
and what's happened here is so the federal government comes with their army and they say we're going to gather Bundy Ranch cattle and we're going to destroy Bundy Ranch's range improvements, which is mainly water troughs and water lines, like pipelines and these type of things. We're going to destroy him and put him out of business. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to bring some contract cowboys to come and do the cowboy work with helicopters and trucks and horses and all this. We're going to gather his cattle. We're going to sell those cattle to some auction yard somewhere around the country, and we're going to destroy his range improvements to where he's out of business. And then we're going to charge him for any expense that we have to getting these cattle.
that's not
Well,
fair.
Bundy says, no, you're not going to destroy my ranch. You're not going to steal my cattle. And I abide by all of Nevada state laws, and I should have the protection of the governor of the state of Nevada. I should have the protection of the county sheriff. He's supposed to be protecting my life, liberty, and property. And so basically, there's a standoff. And the question is, who has sovereignty here? Does the state of Nevada, is the state of Nevada really a state, or is it a territory of the United States? If it's a state, then we have constitutional rights. If it's a territory, which Article 4.3 of the Constitution says, if this ranch is on a territory of the United States, then Congress has unlimited power to make all rules and regulations and to sell it if they want to. So the question is here, who has jurisdiction? Whose land is this? Is it United States land or is it the state of Nevada land? And the question about the cows don't even really matter.
Well, what did you said the governor also? What did you talk to him, or?
Well, the governor should be protecting my life, liberty, and property within the state of Nevada, and so should my county sheriff should be protecting them.
What did they say to you?
Neither one of them protected my property rights.
Wow, that's low. By the way, what was it important to get the BLM out of there exactly? Because he has so much supporters, and everybody brought their guns.
Well, what the question was is the federal government going to have policing power? I guess you could say. In other words, remember who brought the guns? The federal government brought their army. The media says that we, the people, brought our guns. Yes, there were a few guns there, but you never seen anybody point a gun at the federal officers. You seen about 200 federal officers pointing their gun at we, the people.
Wow.
This is something that Bundy said. We have these federal bureaucracy, their agencies pointing their guns at we, the people. And I said, never again in America will we ever allow this to happen. You're not going to point your guns down our throats. Never again.
Wow. And I see a bunch of pictures, supporters, and one picture says the Second American Revolution almost started today. Wow.
Yeah, that's sort of interesting because what I have learned about our Constitution, about the Revolutionary War, we the people fought the strongest nation and the strongest army in the world at the revolutionary time. We fought Great Britain and their great army, and we the people won. Remember, United States was not a United States in them days. We the people fought that war and won. And when our founding fathers created the Constitution, one thing they wasn't going to allow is they was not going to allow a central government to be created as though it's the same as England was. We was never to have uh, bureaucracy agencies pointing their guns down we the people's throat and telling us exactly what we're to do and which way we're going to march. We had won our freedom, our liberty, our agency, and we were not ever going to give that up. And that's what our Constitution guarantees, that we don't give them things up no more. And that's what those people stood for when they stood with Bundy's ranks. We're not going to give up our First Amendment rights. We're not going to give up our agency and freedoms on this land no more. We're not going to do that.
Well,
We're not going to allow that to happen.
what about the media? Did the media cover much on this?
Well, the media covered it. There was lots of media there. At one time I figured it probably had 30 big cameras pointing at me and, following us. The media, I don't understand. They reported it fairly well, but it wasn't very long until, the bureaucrats, the government, the liberal media started to twist things around and making it sound like, just like you said, making it sound like we, the people, had lots of guns pointing at the federal agency. We didn't have hardly, we didn't, I challenge the media. You show me one gun that we, the people, pointed at anybody.
Wow, and they say you were racist, which I'm like, oh, like what can you say about that? They even say you're racist. I know that's not true,
Well,
but that's what it.
I don't know. I don't feel like I'm a racist.
No, you're not.
I feel like that I love all people and I have got respect for all people. I, uh, I can. I'll try to explain this how this racist thing got involved. After we had the standoff, there was thousands of people stood with Bundy's ranch, and they stood for freedom, liberty, and and our individual agency. And then what we had is we had a bit, sort of a celebration, I guess you'd say. We had a barbecue, and a lot of people come. Thousands of people came, and we cooked beef hamburgers along the Virgin River, and everybody had a good time. There's one thing that Bundy seen. I didn't see very many ethnic groups there. I didn't see the color, and I didn't see the Spanish. I didn't see, there were a few, and I had good friends of those ethnic groups, and there was a few, but there wasn't very many. I felt like, hey, freedom is for all people of America.
Yes,
It's
that's
not
right.
just for white man; it's for everybody. And so when I spoke about that, I used the word Negro instead of black, and
It depends how
that
you
was my
say it.
mistake.
I think. I don't know. It depends how you say it. It's not what you say, but how you say it. And you're obviously not racist, man. So that's a stupid statement the media tries to make. That's the media for you.
Well, that's what the media took, and that because I said that word, the media,
Oh,
made a big deal out of it, and in my mind and heart, it's still not a bad word. I didn't mean it in a bad way, and then of course, then they tried to collect or connect that to the fact that, well, he connected that word with uh, cotton. Well,
oh,
hey, I still believe that those people, any people, I don't care who they are, and my family and my kids and I take and work in the fields every day. We pick melons out of the field. That's just, it's good for us to be able to work and have something to do and be able to accomplish something in life and feel like we have a purpose. And that's what I referred to with the black people. I think they were happy, not 100% happy, but I thought they was better off being able to do something, accomplish something. And I wasn't referring back to the slave days at all. I was thinking about today. are back to the civil rights time, which was in the 1960s. Them are the things I was thinking about. I wasn't thinking about 150 years ago at the slave time. I do not want nobody to be a slave to any individual should not be a slave to any other individual or any government. I you know anyway. I hope I'm expressing it in a way you can understand. But
Yeah, yeah.
my love for individual is very much, and my appreciation for individuals are very much.
Wow. Yeah. Someone's a friend of mine told me like, yeah, yeah. Somebody like you're a racist because like some guy that was guarding the fence was actually black. So they thought when you said that that was the case. That's what they thought. I knew
Well,
that person was wrong.
this is something interesting. Right when I said this, I had a couple of there were militia people, and they were basically working almost like bodyguards for me. And my main my main friend, my main person that was helping me was a black boy that was just very, very enjoyable to be around, and we had a personal relationship. And now I said black boy, that's probably a bad thing too.
Oh man.
He's a black gentleman. He's my friend. He was by my side for days and days. He was by my side. There was others also. I respected him as much or more than anybody that was here on the Bundy Ranch. I loved him more than anybody on the Bundy Ranch.
Wow, and I'm not even white myself. I'm like I come from a Hispanic background, but I see it. I know you're the opposite of what the media wants you to make everybody believe. You're not a racist person. You want freedom. You want prosperity for everybody, no matter what they look like, which is good.
Well, sure, and I really believe that that's what I believe in a heavenly Father. I really believe that our heavenly Father uh, wants all of that for His children. And I don't care about color, race, or religion, or where they come from. I really believe that freedom and liberty is for everybody. And the access to this public lands here in Nevada is for everybody. It's not for me or just one race. It's for everybody. We all need to enjoy it and appreciate it.
Well, by the way, you were on the Alex Jones show, and do you know anybody else who actually had you on besides me and Alex?
Oh yeah, I've been on a night probably I don't know 50 or 60 different shows since the standoff.
Wow.
Uh, so I've been on a lot of them. A lot of them have been. I don't know. Tell me a little bit about who do you broadcast to and
Well,
uh,
I would broadcast to the entire campus, and like yeah, I doubt even they know the Bundy standoff. But like if you just look it up, and there's so many people that were involved. Some people wanted to help you out, like whether it's like they had like a arsenal themselves. They were gun owners. They offered to help you. There's a bunch of videos. Everybody's all rooting for you.
yeah, and they were a lot of people. The militia people. Before the standoff. I'm talking about a day or so before the standoff. I had lots of militia people asking if if I wanted them to come. Basically, what I said, it's your free agency. You exercise. So if you want to come or not, they basically tried to say, well, did he give us permission to come? Well, I didn't want to give anybody permission to come, but I finally got to the point that I said, if you want to come, I need you. In other
Course,
words, I'm not going to ask you to come, but if you come, I do need you. And
course.
they were thousands of militia around the United States that basically volunteered to come, and some of them did come. It was the same thing with the public. People were wanting to know if they should come. I said, no, it's up to you. It's your free agency. I want you to come here and you exercise your free agency. When they came, I want to express how I greeted them. I greeted a lot of people. I mean, probably 4,000 people I greeted.
Whoa.
And each time I greeted those people, I said, I want you to understand that you and I are equal. I want you to exercise your free agency here and your judgment. I'm not going to tell you to do anything. I'm not going to tell you what to do or not to do. You exercise your free agency. And what was interesting about this is they did exercise their free agency. We, the people, those people I'm talking about, they stood for their rights and their freedom, their First Amendment rights, and they stood against a federal bureaucracy, army, and they stood with great courage, with great faith, and with very little fear. And they made the stand. And I didn't make that stand. They made that stand.
Yeah, I saw one video. I believe it was from Infowars, and they were like everybody was all together and with their guns, and then like the BLM was slowly backing away, and everybody it was with their horses, and the cattle was released, which I was like, wow.
Yeah, that was quite a event. And the government they want to say, well, we released them Bundy cattle. No, they didn't do nothing.
They killed
They
them,
just pointed their
didn't
guns
they?
at us, and the people, we the people, forced them back, and they left. And we the people, there was actually three old ladies opened the gate and let those cattle loose. The government did not let those cattle loose. Those three old ladies that stood with those guns down their throat, they are the ones that was brave enough to open the gate and turn those cattle loose.
Well, is it true that they also the feds also killed some of the cattle too? Which
Yes, they did.
wow,
You got to
that's sad.
understand this land is a real rough, big world, and a lot of rock, gravel, rough country for cattle. They chased these cattle with helicopters,
Oh
and they
man,
chased them with helicopters and horses, and they abused these cattle in the heat. And by the time they got them into the corrals, after they chased them with their helicopters and roped them and drug them to the trucks and put them in the corrals, they lost cattle all along the way because of stress. And they killed some cattle. Some of these cattle were shot with the helicopters from their back, shot down through the top of their back with the helicopters. Uh, there was this type of abuse. It was bad and terrible. It was my property, my cattle, and yet the federal government was basically uh, abusing them and destroying them.
you couldn't sue them or any way for that for what they did because that's not
Well,
justified.
yeah,
So
yeah, you would think you could sue them. You'd think they'd be breaking the law and they would destroy. And the humane thing alone is terrible. But you remember who you're suing. You got to sue the federal government. This is what's wrong with America. If I was suing the sort of the state of the Nevada and using Nevada law, then I could, there would be no doubt I would have a good lawsuit. But if you sue the federal government, you're going to take this to a federal court, a federal judge, federal lawyers, and they're all paid by the same people. They're all
of
part of the
course
bureaucracy,
the
and
power
you
structure.
can't win. The American
It's
people can't win in the
it's
federal courts.
it's kangaroo court, if that's the correct term.
Well, sure, they have they. It's remember I talked about territorial law, territory. They have unlimited power to make all rules and regulations. That's exactly what happens when you go to a federal court. They have the power to make all rules and regulations. You can't whip them in their courts.
You said Article 4 of the Constitution. I
Article
would
4.3 of the Constitution, it talks about uh, the United States authority over the United States Congress's authority over territories. And
respecting
it
the
says that they
territory.
have unlimited power to make all rules and
Oh
regulations
yes,
and
the
dispose of the land.
yeah, federal property and territory clause. The Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or other property belonging to the United States, and nothing in this Constitution shall be so construed as to prejudice any claims of the United States or of any particular state.
Okay, that's true, and that's a good thing, and it's true. Before we become a state, the United States Congress has unlimited power.
But
But
Congress doesn't
after
have
it
to.
becomes a state, let me quote something that
Yeah.
Mr. Ed Presley makes this quotation. I'm going to quote from him. He says, "It doesn't matter what happens before statehood. What matters is that what happens at the moment of statehood.
Oh
At
yeah.
the moment of statehood, this I live in the state of Nevada. At the moment of the statehood, the people of Nevada is no longer the people of the territory of Nevada of the United States. It's the people are the people of the state of Nevada. They have the Constitution, they have sovereignty, and they have equal representation back in Washington, D.C. In other words, they have representation from the state to in Congress and our Senate. Uh, we, the people, have our sovereignty.
Yes, I agree. By the way, what I've looked this up. I've done a little bit of research on the standoff. Why it says it's still on to present day. Is it like how come all this is just not put to an end? Is some are you still in trouble in some way legally because of this? That it's still not over and done with? What's going on?
Well, I have never received any lawsuit from anybody, or never received. Actually, nobody's ever talked to me. The talking we get is through the media a little bit, and our county sheriff says, well, it's not over.
Oh
Well,
man.
maybe it's not over, but they are not suing me, and I'm not suing them. But then I ask, well, who's the criminal here? Who was stealing cows? Who was
Shooting them.
unhumane treating the animals? Who was destroying private range improvement, private property? And who was locking access away from the public? And who was putting up the signs of First Amendment areas? Who did all of those things? Who poked their guns at we the people? The citizens of the United States, the federal government was pointing their guns at we the people. Who has jurisdiction authority to do that kind of thing in America?
Hmm.
Who has that authority? So the question is, who is the criminal here? Is it Cliven Bundy try to raise cattle to produce food for America and try to abide by all of Nevada state laws? Or is it this bureaucracy, this overreaching government that are taking their guns and pointing at we the people? Who is breaking the law here? Who is the criminal?
Not
That's
you.
the question.
Not you. Definitely not you. You're not the criminal. No way. But what would it, if the feds actually fired shots? You would obviously cannot just stand there. Eventually, it would be.
Well, if most, and when I'm saying most, let's say there was 500 people there. I would say maybe there was out of the 500 people. Let's just take a guess. Let's say there's five, or out of 500 people, there's 10 people with arms. We, the people, had 10 arms, and none of them was pointed at the government. None of them was aimed at the government. So how do we say that we were well armed? The only thing that we have that shows that we have any kind of arms is militia, and this was sort of a surprise to me because I had no idea that militia was even there was enough militia to even make any kind of a stand against this army of the government. But there was a half a dozen militia people that actually got in position, and they were ready to defend we the people. And thank them, and how blessed we are that they were willing to put their life on the line. Because if the federal government would have started to fire, then
Second
they would
American
have been
Revolution.
a little resistance there that could have saved a lot of people's lives.
Wow, that's
And you got to remember that if you that the United States government was saying, if you move forward, we're going to fire. They're saying we have a court order, and if you move forward, we're going to fire. That's what they're telling the people as we the people as they move forward. Move forward and we'll fire. That was their threat for, I don't know, went on for probably an hour.
oh that's unbelievable. And how long did it take for a lot of people to like go to the ranch? Did this like happen in minutes, or you had to like wait a few hours before you got backup from the people?
Well, you got to remember what was happening a few days before the standoff is on the social media. They was getting pictures of the BLM with their snipers. They was getting pictures of them abusing my family members, like my son Dave and Ammon and
Oh
my
yeah.
sister Margaret. These things happened a few days before the standoff, and the people of America was all upset about what was happening. And then they had things like pictures of like the closed areas, all of the roads access was closed, and then they had pictures of things like the First Amendment areas. That made America mad. America didn't want to see their government, the United States government, abusing people like they were, and they didn't want their rights taken away like their First Amendment rights. And so people all over America started to assemble themselves and come to Bundy Ranch. This is something that might surprise most people. Out of the thousands of people that came to Bundy Ranch, there was over half of them that came further away than the Mississippi River. So you had people in your area that was coming all the way to the west in Nevada to make this stand. And that was happening, 3 or 4 days before the standoff. So at the time of the standoff, there was several hundred people here.
Wow. Why exactly is it important for the Second Amendment to like? Why is it important to have guns? The political power comes from the barrel of a gun, right? That's the quote.
Well, the best thing I can say about that is our Second Amendment protects our First Amendment rights.
Oh, because if the first one's threatened, then last resort, and if people would have to fight back, like if everybody has
Yeah,
guns, they can actually reform things. I'm not like calling for violence. I'm saying like last resort if things got up to that point. But if the only the government has guns, then the people it's gonna be hell.
yeah, and I don't know how much you have to do with your native country, but Mexico is a good example. If you go to Mexico, there are only two people that have guns. One is the government, and the other is the criminals.
I thought they were
We
trying
the
to.
people in Mexico don't have no way to defend ourselves.
I thought they were getting more guns in Mexico. Like starting, the government was starting to allow them to have guns as long as they register or something, or so I've heard.
I'm not up on their laws. It might be, but far as I know, there's only two classes of people that have the guns, and that is the government or the criminals. And the only reason the criminals have the guns is they're almost as powerful as the government. The government can't take those guns away, but the people don't have no defense. I
Oh,
mean, if the criminals come after them, what are they going to do? If the
everybody's
government
screwed.
comes after them, what are they going to do?
Everybody's screwed.
They're just, yeah, they have to submit. And submitting is not having freedom and liberty and not being able to protect your family and not be able to protect your property rights. And so, if someone in Mexico don't really have a way, it's a God given privilege to protect your family and your property. But in Mexico, you don't have that freedom. And Mexico is only one example. A lot of nations across the country, in these communist countries, people do not have guns. They're just if they protest, it's like putting yourself up to slaughter if that's what the government wants to do. But in America, if things get bad enough, there's lots of guns in America. If we're invaded by a foreign nation, there's lots of guns in America. If you're invaded as Bundy was uh, by your own government, there's an equalizer. There's people with guns. There's militia with guns.
Yeah. When the people fear the government, there's tyranny. But when the government fears the people, there's liberty.
That's true. And in this standoff, we didn't want the government to have to fear we the people. But hey, what are you going to do with a government that's got an army pointing their guns at we the people? The only thing they can do is be faithful and stand strong and march without fear, which they did, and they succeeded. And without that, guess what would be happening if those people wouldn't have stood? For one thing, Bundy would be out of a ranch.
Of
His
course.
probably his family would be, and some of them would be killed,
Oh
and
man.
everybody in America would have less freedom.
Oh.
Every rancher would have less freedom. Everybody would have less freedom because the federal government would have proved they have unlimited power, they have policing power, and they are in control. Right today, they can't say they're in control because we, the people, still are in control, and we're going
Oh,
to stay that way.
hopefully. That reminds me of Switzerland. Like everybody has guns over there. What do you know anything about Switzerland's and their gun laws?
No, I don't, but I haven't ever heard of any government taking over we, the people's rights over there.
No, like everybody has guns and and they even have their own bomb shelters. They would have their own gas masks. They have like everything, and including some of them would even have cannons that, yeah, their own cannons from like World War I or World War II. They have their own cannons at home, and the government
You
doesn't say
know,
anything over there.
and I don't know. That'd be interesting, and that might be something you could research on and
Yeah,
talk about on your show someday. But I'll bet you'll find out that there's very little crime there, and I bet
one of the lowest
there.
crime rates. One of the lowest crime rates actually for Switzerland.
Well, sure, and there's very little crime. I'd bet you that there's very little crime, and I'll bet you there's very little government tyranny there going on either. I bet you things are quite a bit. I don't know. I'm just saying. I'll bet you order is. I bet you people are able to feel a little freedom and liberty
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
I hope so.
Of course. That reminds me of that one video you could look up actually. People who were saved by guns. It's like 24 minutes, and you see like people like where it's robbing. Someone's robbing a grocery store, and they have their gun. One guy that gets like three thugs, like they literally saved their lives, caught on camera, which is amazing.
Well, I'm not a person that really has a lot of love for guns, but I do have a lot of respect and love for our Second Amendment, and I believe that every person should
Constitution,
be
Bill of
able
Rights.
to own a gun, and they should be able to carry it and protect themselves, and their family and their friends. I think I don't know of any better way to protect ourselves against a terrible criminal element than with a gun. That's what the sheriff uses is a gun.
Yeah, but
To,
the sheriff is not your mother, so the sheriff's not always gonna be there.
no, he's not.
So
But
you have to defend yourself.
the gun is what gives the sheriff his power,
Of course.
and of course that power is shared to the sheriff because we the people have allowed and have give some authority to the sheriff to exercise our agency in the sense of protecting our life, liberty, and property. So the sheriff is actually only an extension of our uh, uh, liberty and rights that we have. Our our jurisdiction and authority as an individual. We have shared that with our sheriff to protect us.
Wow. Is it possible this event could happen again in the future?
Well, this event is actually happening all over the United States. That's just this say back to the rancher in the western United States. This same thing that the abuse that the federal government, the bureaucracy was trying to bring down on Bundy's ranch, the power and the threat of trying to basically overrun. I'm trying to get this right. The federal government wants jurisdiction and power over these lands. They want policing power, and that abuse is going on across the western United States every day. They're threatening ranchers, not particularly with guns, but with the ranchers' livelihood. What if they cut their life? They claim they're managers over this land. What if they cut their business, say, by 25% tomorrow? Can a rancher sustain his life and his business
No way.
without 25% of his income? Or has the federal government just ruined that ranch?
Oh
And so
man.
this abuse is going on all the time.
That reminds me of the asset forfeiture laws. I don't know if you heard of this. The Donald Scott and his wife, now widow, Frances Scott, and he used to have he used to have a ranch somewhere in California, and like in the middle of like a national park. And there was like an issue, and the government made up stuff and just to try to take their land. I don't know if you heard of that story in the '90s somewhere.
Well, that's let me get relate a little closer to home. I live in Clark County, Nevada. It's a big area. I don't know, bigger than some of the eastern states, just the one county. But they used to be 52 ranchers. I'm talking about only 20 years ago. I used to have 52 neighbor ranchers, and
Oh,
today I'm the last man standing.
no way.
Well, what happened to those other ranchers? The federal bureaucracies have broke those ranchers, run them out of business, and they was six of them that they actually paid a little money to. I said they give up their heritage, their lifestyle, their family business, and their future, and not only their children's posterity for a bowl of porridge. In
Oh,
other words, that's all they got out of these ranches. They got the price of a new diesel pickup. That was all they got, and all of these things are ruined. And America has lost production. These ranchers
of
used to
course.
produce food for America and
Yep.
food for the world, and today they don't produce nothing. And this land, these resources are not producing nothing.
And the
Well,
poisoning the land, poisoning the water, and Monsanto, and like they're shutting the country down, and people like don't care about that. If only they were
yeah,
like you.
the general public for some reason don't understand
They're a deep
that
trance.
all of our wealth comes from the land and resources. All of our wealth, it even the computer that we got in front of us is built from the resources of the land. Well, our food comes from the land also. If you're wanting beef and you want to go down and buy a hamburger, somebody has to produce it.
Yep.
The forage that the animal eats has to be produced on the land. And that same forage is what I harvest here. I harvest a renewable resource, which is a forage for livestock. And those livestock convert that forage into red meat, which is feeding us people here on this land. And without producers, we starve.
Wow. And is there any thing going on? You said there was a bunch of stuff dealing with ranchers that's going on in the country. Do you know anything in particular that was similar to the Bundy ranch standoff that happened? Do you know of anything that's like right now, but just people don't know about it? But do you know anything about like if it's something similar that what happens going on now?
Well, there's some ranchers in northern Nevada. I think there's four ranchers up there in Winnemucca area. That's between Elko, Nevada, and uh, Reno, Elko and Reno. There's some ranchers in there. There's four ranchers that BLM is basically cutting their numbers on their grazing rights and basically putting those guys out of business. Now that's been going on for the last few months. You might have heard of that. Where I can't remember exactly what it's called. Anyway, where the ranchers rode from coast to the west coast to the east coast and protested the government ruining these ranches. That's something that's been going on, the last few months. There's a lot of ranchers that are their numbers of cattle. Remember, I said if you have a business and they cut 25% of your business, who can survive? Well, there's a
Wow.
lots of ranchers across the western United States that's getting these kind of cuts. And of course, the government always uses excuses like you're overgrazing or drought or whatever. It don't matter what the excuses they use, they're ruining ranchers every day.
Wow. That's unbelievable. Do you know of anything like a documentary or a book is being made on this stuff? I think there could be like a documentary on this stuff. I would like to read something like that. Do you know of anybody if somebody's writing like a book or
Well, they have been a book written on the Bundy stand. It's called Last Rancher Stands by Shauna Cox. She's wrote a sort of a history of what happened here on Bundy Ranch, so that's available. Uh, there's uh, the Wayne Hage case. I don't know if you're familiar with that in northern Nevada. That's a case that's been going on for 30 years. Takings case, and that's a terrible thing. There's a nice rancher family that have lost family members and cost them millions of dollars, and basically the federal government is ruining the ranch or will ruin it before it's all over. There are just a lot of these cases.
wow. You've recently been on the Alex Jones show like once or twice. Do you, like, what do you think of Alex Jones? I think he's like, he also wants freedom and prosperity.
But I felt like he's been fair to me. We've always had a good discussion, and of course, I believe that he's well. I believe he agrees with me. I believe he agrees in a constitution and that we should have state sovereignty, and I believe he believes in property rights and that each individual should have their free agency to exercise their First Amendment rights and their Second Amendment rights and be able to move about and live and progress and even succeed and fail. That's part of our liberty. I think Alex Jones understands those things.
Have you gone across the country like talking to people like in conferences?
I haven't been on like a speaking tour, and I don't charge any money, but I do volunteer to speak. I've been, in southern Arizona and northern California. I've been in northern Nevada. Just for example, I have a speaking engagement next week in Ely, Nevada, which is sort of central eastern Nevada. I have another one in Salt Lake City. So
Wow.
that's just two that I have coming up next week that I know of.
Wow, that's amazing. So before you go, what do you want to tell everybody? Like everybody who's listening, everybody in worldwide, even. What would you be a message?
You know, I always I'm always excited about telling America and the world about our Constitution. Our Constitution is a I figure a divine. I know it's a divine document. It's the supreme law of the land, and our Constitution was developed and set apart as being the foundation of our individual sovereignty, our freedom. Our individuals are very important, and the Constitution protects our individual rights to liberty and freedom and to our agency. And I believe that our Constitution lays forth a proper form of government, the best government in the whole on the whole earth, and that all other countries would benefit if they would just understand and adopt and live by the Constitution of United States of America. American people need to pay attention. These problems that are happening in our America are have already been solved by our founding fathers. We just need to pay attention to our Constitution and live by it. We wouldn't have a large central government that has or acting like it has unlimited power, acting like the country of Great Britain did at the time of the Revolution. We wouldn't have that kind of government with abusive power and overreach as we have today if we'd follow the Constitution. So we just need to follow the Constitution of the United States. We, the people, need to pay attention to the Constitution. We, the people, need to understand that we have the sovereignty, and our closest government is our county government, and our protection there is our elected county sheriff, which we pay to protect our life, liberty, and property. We need to pay attention to what's going on at home, quit worrying about what's going on in the nation and even the world. Our business to straighten this America out is at home, and we need to be able to remember what Bundy said: disarm the bureaucrat. Disarm the bureaucrat. Take their guns away. They don't have to have guns. They don't need no guns. All of these bureaucrats that have all these guns,
Yeah,
they
the
don't need
people are
these
involved.
guns. If American people have problems, they have a hired sheriff to take care of their problems. So get rid of those guns. If all of the sheriffs across the United States, there's like 3,100 county sheriffs, if they would take the guns away from the bureaucrats, we the people wouldn't have to fight them someday in a civil war. We would not have to do that. And so, what Bundy says, County sheriffs, do your job. And we, the people, need to support our county commissions and county sheriffs
Of
and
course.
pay attention to what's happening at home. That's how we're going to bring back America. And this is the greatest nation in the world. We have the most freedoms, liberty, and all of these things are under a God that really loves this country and loves us as individuals. Only one other thing I'd like to say to the people in this world is we all could do better. Let's do just a little bit better every day.
Wow. Of course. There's hardly anything I couldn't agree on that statement. And wow, yep, you're right. Of course, more power to the people. Even I don't know if you've heard of Jesse Ventura. I don't know if you've heard of him. You also think of reminds me of him too. Jesse Ventura. He was a governor of Minnesota. He was. I don't know if you heard of him, but
Yeah, well, yeah, I have. I haven't studied him, but I do know who he is.
well, then it was nice talking to you, Cliven Bundy. And if in the future, if I'm ever in Nevada, I'll make sure to look you up.
Please do. I did enjoy it and welcome you to come to Bundy Ranch and enjoy some of our freedoms and liberty here. And remember, I want to say something about, and I don't know how long it's been, but I want to say something about your people. This, uh, the Mexican American people
Well,
that are
and
here in our land. I have very lots of respect for their ethnic group because of their work ability and their family structures. They're very great people. I want to say that.
well, yeah, and like I always I agree with that, and like no matter what you look like or where you come from, whether it's because it's I personally myself would like talk to people who are from different countries, the Central South America, some who are from Europe, some who are from Asia. So like it doesn't matter what you are. We all we want is freedom, prosperity, and that's all I want. You know.
Sure, we want to. Everybody wants to be comfortable, and everybody wants to be able to. I'm not saying everybody, but everybody should want to work to make our, work for our living, take care of our families, be responsible, be a law-abiding citizen, and be able to be, love our neighbors. Those are the things we all want, and those are the things we all need. And we need to love our wives and our children, and let them know these that we love them. These are the good things of this life, and what a great world we have to exercise these things.
Of course. Well, it was nice talking to you, Mr. Cliven Bundy.
Thank you for having me,
No problem. No
and I
problem.
want to say, uh, bless this world and bless all of these people. What a great world we have. Let's be happy, and let's get along with each other. And
Yep.
thank you for inviting me.
No problem. And in the future, I would like to have you on again. So if you don't mind, like in the next few months, probably.
Yeah, just make an appointment
Yep.
with my calendar, and I'll be happy to be here anytime.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bundy.
Good night.
Good night. Well, guys, that was Cliven Bundy. Yeah, the Cliven Bundy from the standoff. Yeah, that's him. Wow, just speechless. And it's obviously important to live up to your morals and and values and virtue and all the good things in this life, no matter what you look like. So you gotta learn from him. You know, that's what's gonna save our backs for the future.